everybody. Aaron Blaise here, and we're back again. It's Tuesday, and now that we got our new system, we're broadcasting to everybody, right?
Yep.
So we're on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Twitch. So today I thought I would switch it up. So I've been animating for you guys, both traditionally and digitally, hand drawn. For the last couple of weeks, so I thought we'd come over and do something more traditional with painting. And so I thought I'd do a little watercolor today and show you my technique. Everybody has different techniques. And actually, when I'm painting in the studio, my studio technique tends to be a little bit tighter, a little bit different than what I do when I'm out in the field and I'm doing plein air paintings in watercolor. But I thought I would do a little animal painting of a cougar. I shot some photographs when I was in Montana over the summer with Nick. I shot photos of a whole bunch of stuff, but I just printed out this nice. See if you can go the over shoulder shot, Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
I got this nice. There
we go.
Photo that I'm going to use as reference of this cougar. I like the lighting on it and everything, and I'm just going to kind of approach it in a nice, kind of loose watercolor way. So. Yeah. So why don't we go back to camera one? But anyway, so we're going to do that today. I've also got, as I talk about, I'm going to talk a little bit about structure. So I've got this little, that's not little actually, it's a full-grown male cougar skull. This is an actual cougar skull, not a cast that I picked up when I was in Montana. And I'll talk about some of the structure as I paint. But as usual, I've got my son, trusty partner, and in crime, Dustin Blaise with me. We're using up all the cameras today, so we don't have a camera on Dustin. So put your fingers in there, Dustin. Say hi.
Hi.
There he is. There's Dustin. That's all you're going to get of him today. And then in Sarasota, I've got Nick, and he's going to be answering questions. But first thing, I just thought I'd talk about what I use for watercolor. I am using, for paper, let's go to the over shoulder. Mm-hmm. I like to use Arches watercolor blocks. This is cold pressed, and you'll know it's cold pressed by the green cover. And cold press gives you a little bit of a texture. Let's see if I can hold. I don't know if you can see this. You probably can't zoom in on it, but you can probably see a little texture.
Yeah.
In it.
You see the light bouncing off the.
Yeah. Can you see the texture of the paper? And that gives you a little bit of control. A little bit more control of the water color, the pigment, as it spreads through the paper. It'll spread a little bit more evenly when you're working on cold pressed paper. They also have hot pressed paper, which I don't have. Oh, right behind you, Dustin. Can you grab that?
Which one?
That pink one.
The pink one.
So they've also got hot press, which I use every once in a while. This is hot press, and the only difference is that it's perfectly smooth. And you can do it's watercolor paper, but the water it doesn't spread quite the same way. You have a little bit less control sometimes, but it's nice to. Sometimes it's just nice to go back and forth between the tooth and the smooth. And also, what I've done is I've already gone ahead and I've sketched in the cougar just to save us a little bit of time. And I'd like to keep things really simple. So I've got my block. Oh, and what makes it a block is if you look along the edges, it's all sealed along every single edge. So that the reason they do that is so that when the water, especially if I'm doing washes over the whole thing, if it gets wet over the whole thing, it's, the water, the paper soaks up that water and it expands. And what it's going to do is it's going to buckle. But when you're sealed along the edges, it tends to buckle less. It's still going to swell, so I'll get a little bit of buckling inside, but it won't curl up, which is nice. The other thing I do, and this is just personal taste, is when I'm doing my little sketches like this, I like to tape my edges off so I get a nice clean edge. A lot of people will paint to the edge, but my personal taste is I like to paint I like to tape off my edges.
Are you able to use both sides of the paper?
Yes, you can use both sides of the paper after it's been pulled off. Right. So, I mean, really, the side that you're going to use is the side that's presented. But if you screw up on it and you want to pull it off and just try something on the other side, you can. You can just tape it down.
Gotcha.
And I just keep a little water jar. If I'm working at my desk, you can just have a glass of water, that sort of thing. And then let's switch over to the palette.
Done.
And so today I'm going to keep a very simple palette. I've got 2 blues, which I probably won't even use, but I'm going to grab them anyway. I've got 2 blues. I've got 1 green. I think this is a sap green. And yeah, and I got to bite them to get them to open up. But I believe this is sap green. It's all twisted up. But anyway, I've got a cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, cadmium red, and then I've got my ochre, burnt sienna, and then some people don't like to use this color. I tend to like to use it in watercolor, which is Paynes Gray. And I'm going to go ahead and just lay these out. And I tried to lay them out according to the way they are on the color wheel, or on the rainbow, if you think about it that way. But I'm just going to drop a little bit into each dish. And then this is going to be my palette right here. And then I'll go over my brushes here in just a sec. So, how you been?
Are you talking to the audience?
I'm talking to you. I can answer questions.
So,
but like
you've been
usual,
talking all this time.
but as usual, I'll be answering questions, and so while I'm squeezing out my paint, which I should have done ahead of time, let's see what people want to ask.
I'm going to Italia for a tour. What do you recommend to bring for quick sketching and paintball on the go?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, because I had this in preparation as well. Shoot back over my shoulder again. So I bring this, but first of all, I've got a couple things I'm going to show you. This is my art bag.
I'll switch over to webcam for this.
Okay, well actually go back to my shoulder as well.
Okay.
But this is my art bag right here. These are called Arties, and they are, and Nick will create a link. These are made by a small company, husband and wife in India. Lilo Roche is the company, and these are handmade bags that are made to order. And I've had mine for a couple of years, and I absolutely love it. It's a great, perfect size bag, goes over your shoulder. You open it up, and bam, I've got everything I need right here. All my brushes, my markers. The pockets are huge, so I keep, right now I've got everything pulled out, but my pads of paper, everything goes in there. In the back, and a lot of you guys have heard me talk about these bags before. There's another zipper in the back that I put all my paints. I put everything in here. Everything is self-contained, super durable. It's got magnets on the ends right here, and it closes right up. They are so affordable and so durable, and like I said, completely customizable. I wanted mine to be done in denim, so they made it in denim for me, sent it to me, and boom, I've been using this for maybe 3 years now, I think.
Really?
This bag has been all over the world. I've got an even bigger one that's about 18 by 24.
And the bigger one is the newest one, right?
Yeah, it's giant. And I use that for my big zoo drawings and all of that. But I really support a small business because they are amazing. It's Lilo Roche. Check them out. And like I said, and they've got different sizes. And like I said, they're completely customizable. If you want the pockets to be different for you, they'll do it. I've got side pockets right here. I forgot to mention side pockets on this side, pockets on this side for extra things. So this I carry with me out in the field everywhere I go, everywhere. And then within this bag, I keep one of these. So this here is my Cotman, Winsor Newton Cotman field kit. And these are great. It fits right in your wallet, boop, right in my pocket. And the top comes off, okay? So I'm going to put that here for a second. It opens up, okay? Now, on the back, there's a little ring. So you can see this ring that comes out right there like that. And that's going to be for my thumb to go in. And And then this opens up. It opens up right here. Now this here, there's a little sable paintbrush right here. And then this right here is a little water bottle, so you can fill water up in this, and it also becomes a palette. And the reason why you would fill water up is because then you take your cap that you pulled off, and it's got a little notch in it. You see that notch? That notch fits, and it dovetails right on there. Then you pour your water in, bloop, 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 bloop. And then you open up your brush. I'm going to just grab a different brush for now. But you open up your brush, and boom, you are painting right away. And it's super, super handy. I've been using these for almost 30 years. I love them. I've gone through, I think this is my second one or my third one. But they're super durable. So there's that. So this
Where can you find that particular device?
You can get them on Amazon. It's a Winsor Newton, made by Winsor Newton. It's a Cotman, C-O-T-M-A-N, watercolor set. Field kit. Now there's going to be a couple different kinds. I recommend this model, and sometimes it might be a little hard to find it, but start with Amazon. And the way you can tell is it looks like this. It looks like this little box, just like that. Now, like I said, there's going to be a few different kinds, but this is what you want right here. And then it just goes right in your pocket, and you're done. So that's what that's the other thing too. I forgot to mention. Let me pull this open. Just the paint itself. The Cotman cakes, the cake watercolors, are excellent. Mine are a little bit of a mess because I use them so much. But matter of fact, I can show you really quick because I happen to have these. All of these paintings. This is my little sketchbook from Africa. All of these were done with my Cotman set, my Cotman kit.
And by the way, Nick says FYI, the Winsor Newton is currently out of stock right now.
Oh, it's currently out of stock.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth waiting for. But these are all done with that kit that I just showed you, that little watercolor set. Along with these. These are all, let me unzip that. These are all little watercolors that I did up in Maine. I took a trip with the kids. We did a family trip up there.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
It was 16 years ago. But these are all done with my watercolor kit, my little Cotman kit. Right, done on location. So, I recommend it. Really recommend it.
And the brushes that you use, are they synthetic brushes?
These are synthetic. What I'm going to be using today are synthetic brushes. The one that's in the Cotman set is an actual sable brush. It's tiny, and I recommend getting some other brushes. These are what I'm going to use today. They're kind of small, but I'm painting kind of small today too. Let me go ahead and finish because I'm not getting anywhere. Let me finish laying everything out here.
Excuse me. Just get myself comfortable.
Comfortable?
Get myself comfortable.
There we go. So, just trying to lay everything out in a nice logical order. Now, a lot of this color I probably won't need, so I'm trying to be sparing with it. Because I'm using professional grade watercolor. That's another thing too. You know, there's student grade, and student grade is cheaper, but basically it's cheaper because they put less pigment in it. So I like to have more pigment, more staining strength. I don't have to use as much paint, especially with watercolor. And then I'm going to get to my earth tones right here.
Is there a watercolor piece that you're most proud of or happy with the result, or maybe even was just fun to make?
Well, I tend to get, with my studio pieces, I used to get really tight with my watercolors. And so there is a gull painting that I did completely traditional, meaning all the white was just paper. And so I had a lot of fine detail of white feathers, where the way I created it was to paint around the feather to create the feather. And I'm really happy with that one. It was a ring-billed gull.
And what's the brand of the brushes that you're currently using again?
Oh, the brand, all kinds of different brands. Hold on. The brushes don't. For me, I mean, when you're doing watercolor, you'd want these are just Lowell, Cornell, and I'm just using rounds, just round brushes. Lowell, Cornell, and they're rounds. Okay. Now down the road, I mean, some of you can spend $300 on a brush, and but for me, these work fine. I'm really hard on my brushes. If I buy a $200 brush, I'm going to destroy it over time anyway. So I use synthetics, and for me they've worked fine for me. So I've got that. I've got all my watercolor, my paints laid out right here, as you can see. I've got them all in a nice order with my earth tones down here. And I've got my water. I'm left-handed, so this is just something obvious to think about. If you're right-handed, keep your palette on your right side. If you're left-handed, I'm left-handed, I keep the palette on my left side so I can mix. I keep my water on the left side, and then I keep a pile of paper towels right here. Boom. I keep those, and then I'm ready to go. Now remember, go to camera 1. Watercolor is a transparent medium. So the way you get luminosity in your watercolor is not through pigment, but through the paper, the white of the paper shining through the pigment. So the lighter areas have less pigment. Something that's white, if you're going completely traditional opaque water or transparent watercolor, then the white areas are just the paper. And then the most pigment is the darker areas are where the most pigment is. And so what you do is you are working from light to dark. It's an additive process. I'm adding pigment as I go. So as I paint, I'm looking at my lightest areas first and then working toward the dark. And that's what we're going to be doing today, okay? So with that being said, I usually start with a fairly large brush. In this case, I'm going to go even bigger. I'm going to pull out a bigger brush. Yeah. There. So there's an even bigger one. And this one is Princeton Art and Brush Company. But, and what I want to do is I just want to get a little bit of color. I'm going to go very loose at first. And watercolor should be fun. I've treated it very tightly, and I've treated it really loose, and I've had fun in both ways. So I'm just gonna add a little. I'm actually gonna grab some earth tone here, so a little yellow ochre. I'm gonna go light with it. I want to have a lot more water than pigment, and then I'm gonna just in another reservoir over here. I'm gonna mix up a little bit of a complement. A little bit of ultramarine just to cool off a couple of areas, and I'm going to get a little bit of burnt sienna as well.
What did you say the color that blue was?
That's ultramarine. Ultramarine blue. Why is that funny?
It's just the nerd side of me.
Oh, is that a video game thing?
Well, remember how I collected those little figurines of Warhammer 40,000, Warhammer 40K?
Yeah.
My army was called Ultramarines.
Oh.
So, just had a little
nerdy
fun moment.
Okay, so let's go back over my shoulder. Mm-hmm. So, I'm just going to go in with this dominant color. I'm going to pick this up a little bit because I'm getting a little bit of glare. There we go. And I'm just going to loosely paint in. And you'll see too, I'm going to go in with water too. I'll go back and forth with pigment, and then I'll go in, and what I'll do is I'll squeeze out the water in my brush and pull areas out and go right to water. And for me, a lot of this will just get painted over. But it's a way to kind of break the ice for me.
So for your feather painting you were mentioning, you don't think it's bad to leave part of the canvas untouched to leave a light effect, or should you always add some kind of paint to every inch of the canvas?
No, you don't have to add paint to every inch of the canvas at all. Not with watercolor. It can be completely bare, which we're going to do that here today.
It's focusing on your head.
Oh, don't like that.
It's
I'm
going
going
to
to move this light too, because I think the light is a little.
Yeah, it's shining a little too
There
brightly.
we go. Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting that should do it right. There we go.
Now it should be focusing on your work now.
I'm gonna grab.
It'll be a bit offset. It'll be a bit in a weird
And you'll
angle,
see
but
you'll see. I'm gonna throw a little bit of blue in here. Now watch what can happen. I'm mixing rinsing my brush out, drying it out, and look, I got a bunch of paint gathered up here, and I've got this big brush. I can come in here. I can soak all this right back up. So you get a lot of control.
what's the most expensive color you have?
Probably my CAD red. So I'm just coming in here now and laying in. Keeping it loose.
What grain of paper are you currently using? Have you tried 680 grain?
This is 140 pound. So I'm going to keep going in here. Like I said, this is just to lay down a little color.
Somebody says you should beat your brush Bob Ross style.
I don't want to ruin it. I
If you're
can pull
using
up a little pigment here. Go ahead, Dustin.
sorry, if you're using ink, you put this in early or after the watercolor?
Well, it depends. If you're using waterproof ink, you can go first. I usually use waterproof ink, and I like to draw if I'm doing just an ink drawing, and then a loose watercolor over the top, which I've done demos of that before for you guys before too. Just use a waterproof ink, and it'll go fine. So I'm just going to pull this out. I'm just, like I said, this is just the initial, just laying in color. I'm going to scrub some of this out because I want some of this to be a little cooler, a little lighter. And you can scrub out areas very easily.
Are you caring about value at all right now, or
Right
just
now,
getting
yes,
some
I
general
am.
colors?
I am caring about value. I want to make sure I'm keeping everything in a very light value. I don't want anything to go dark yet. Remember, this is a additive process. I'm going to add pigment, and it'll get darker and darker where I want it to get darker. One other tool I forgot to mention, and it's going to get loud here for just a second, but it really speeds up the process, and that's this. A hair dryer. So I'm just going to sit here and paint. I got to dry my brush, my painting.
Just gonna dry it off here a little bit. Just dabble down it. How do you keep the paper from warping?
Well, if you weren't here earlier, then you won't know. But this is on a watercolor block, and so that's why it's not warping. That's why I was saying it's sealed around all edges, and that way it won't warp.
So you need a special kind specifically for.
If I had just a single piece of paper, I could tape it down to the board, and it won't warp.
Gotcha. Sounds like a plan, Mayor.
And this dries fairly quickly. I've got it on high, so it gets a little hot. There we go. So that's the first little pass that I'll do. And then I'll go in. I'm just going to start working some of this color. And I'm going to pick an area. Probably go with a smaller brush at first. And I'm just going to work my way up. Now I'm going to once again keep working towards the dark, but I have an area here on the nose where I want to go a little darker. Oops, get my water over here.
Have you done some oil painting and acrylic paintings?
Oh yeah. I've done a lot of oil and acrylic. Here what I'm doing is I'm just laying in a little bit of color. Now watch, you'll see it looks like a little blotch right there right now, but what I can do is come in and soften that.
Sorry everybody, just trying to get a better angle for you guys. You keep leaning in too much.
Sorry. There we go.
There's that famous line again. There we go.
Yeah. Like I said, when I'm working like this, I'm trying very hard to keep my values under control. So right now I'm just going to the next value down. And this will steadily get darker and darker.
Any chance of a live stream of oils, acrylics, or gouache?
Absolutely. I might even add a little bit of gouache to this today. Who knows? We'll see where it goes.
Do you like the children's book illustrator Arthur Rackham?
Yes. I used to have his stuff up on my board at Disney.
And for the newcomers, you're currently using a reference picture, correct?
I am. I am using a reference picture. And I'm looking towards, I'm trying to keep enough water on my brush that I can go in and manipulate what this is doing. So if you look, I can go in and soften areas, and you'll see that I'll often hit that brush against my hand. And that just knocks some of the pigment off and allows me to soften up areas. What's funny?
So you guys should make shirts that say "There we go" in Aaron's font.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
And just with your face blown up on the t-shirt. Make it purple. Purple tank top style.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
I remember that shirt when I was little. I love the paintball story with that shirt.
Oh yeah. So I'm going to go in with this eye. Now ultimately the eye and everything around the eye is going to be really dark.
So when you're talking about value, what exactly do you mean by it?
Value is not how much it's worth. Value is light and dark. Am I getting in the picture again?
No. Just wanna.
You gonna zoom in a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, zoom in. Value
Just
is
make sure not
light.
to lean in too much.
Yeah, value is when I'm referring to value, I'm always referring to light and dark. A dark value means it's dark, and then a light value is light. So as we worked on this, we're going to be working towards a darker and darker value. That should be good. So I'm going to mix a little bit of, I'm going to jump right to a fairly dark value right now on the nose just to start balancing that a little bit. It's a tight little detail.
Very tight like a tiger.
Tight like a tiger. There we go. But even this, I'll be going over it again. You'll be going, I tend to paint over areas multiple times because I'm building up pigment, making it darker as I go. Hit it real quick with a blow dryer.
Should I work on my drawing skills first and then go for animation, or should I work on both of them at the same time?
You work on both of them at the same time. I've never stopped working on my drawing skills. You work on both at the same time. So here I'm jumping back into here on this nose, letting that feed into the little dark marking on its muzzle. And I might even go into it with a little brush pen later on with a black brush pen. There we go. Sorry, can't help myself. Just trying to soften everything up here. This one I want to be kind of sensitive with it. I want it to be a nice sensitive image.
Apologies to ask a digital question during a traditional medium stream, but do you have any Photoshop brushes that can emulate a watercolor feel? If so, would this be the wet media set?
Yes. You nailed it. You answered your own question. So I'm going to jump in here. Actually, I'm going to use a bigger brush.
Is this a puma or a lioness?
This is a puma.
Puma.
Puma, mountain lion, cougar, catamount, whatever you want to call it. Still mixing paint. You can switch cameras if I'm mixing paint a lot, Dustin. There you go. I'm mixing up a brown here to work out some of this color up in here. Because once again, I want this brow. I want this brow to be lighter in value. So you notice I'm painting around it.
The paper you're currently using, you said is cold pressed, correct?
This is cold press, yes.
What are your thoughts on watercolor pencils?
You know what? I know some people that do some really beautiful watercolor pencil stuff. I've never used them, and it's not because I don't like them. Because I'd love to try. I've just never bought them and used them. I've always just stayed really traditional with what I do here. But I would definitely try them. What's the matter?
It's just
I keep leaning into it.
no. It's just it doesn't feel quite center. It's driving me nuts.
It drives me nuts.
There we go.
So I'm just trying to manipulate. You can, as long as it's you can keep, as long as it's wet, you can keep manipulating that pigment around. And even after it's dry, you can do a little bit with it. You can re-wet areas, pull it up with paper towels, soften edges. But right now, I'm trying to find all those little subtleties, and then I'm going to start painting in shadows right over the top with a little bit of ultramarine.
Why do you keep touching the brush before you paint?
I'm rubbing out excess water. If you look at my hand is all wet, and what I'm doing is I'm pulling away. What I'm doing is I'm pulling that brush through my finger and pulling away excess water. Now watch. Now that's a little bit wet. I'm going to lighten this area because it's getting a little dark for me. I can just hit that with a paper towel. And now I've lightened it right back up again. And I got to go back to my hair dryer.
Back to the hair dryer.
Back to my hair dryer.
Back to our ancestors. And now. Does anyone have any clues of the new Wacom's release dates for the new screens?
I don't. And I'm not sure that they know yet either. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just jump right ahead and paint in my shadow shapes. And I'm going to use just a straight, pure ultramarine. I'm going blue. And what I'm purposely doing is because the cat is so much orange, and shades of orange and earth tones, I'm going to go in with this cat complement and just go straight up ultramarine, and then we'll have some fun with this. All right. Now it's the moment of truth. It's either going to be good or it's going to be bad. But you got to remember, we're going to be able to paint right into this later on. I'm painting where I want the shadow to be. What?
What? That's just somebody commented. I love it when Aaron does he talk when the hair dryer's on.
When I talk when the hair dryer's on?
Yeah, when we're talking to each other when the hair dryer's on.
So I'm painting in shadow shapes right now. One area I just messed up on. So I can pull that right back out and do it again. There we go. Look at that.
What is your favorite? The real drawing of painting or imaginary character drawing of painting?
I like painting. There's something about, I like them both. I love painting reality though. To get something to feel, even if it's a loose painting, to feel real is a really cool feeling. It's so funny now.
So, somebody wrote, Dusty, will you and your dad talk in that old-timey radio accent for the rest of the stream?
No, we will not talk in the old-fashioned timey radio accent.
Oh, come on, that is just ridiculous there. Have you ever passed this types of traditional painting to the digital media to do finishing touches?
Yes. And So I'm going a little heavy with this, but screw it. I'm just going to run with it. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. There we
I
go.
just don't care.
So this is shadow. It's a big shadow coming down right in there. And then here. Here. And as I get further away from my center of interest, which is going to be the head in this case, I'm going to get a little bit looser and a little bit looser.
So we got another question here from Facebook here. Do you only use complement color for the darker shadows? When else is it appropriate to make the contrast between warm and cold?
You can do that within light areas themselves. You can do that. It really just depends on. I definitely got to lighten some of this up. There we go. It depends on what they're relating to, if that makes any sense. So you can have complements playing against each other within light areas. I got to soften an edge right here. So what I'm doing is I'm hitting that edge and I'm pulling up the pigment just like so. And then going to mixing on my palette right now. Mixing on the palette. On the palette that I've been mixing on for the last 30 seconds. Is it stuck? Oh, you got a window and window there?
Yeah, I showed it to you earlier.
Oh, I missed it. I wasn't paying attention to what you were saying to me.
Yeah, so, I'm ignored all the time. I'm used to it.
I'm going to just using dappled light.
This painting brought to you by Yellowstone National Park.
Oh, Manny.
Manny's watching.
Manny's watching. Yellowstone National Park. All right, I like the Teton National Park. They're grand. So still just laying in color.
Have you done with pen work of spot work?
Say that again?
Have you done pen work with spot work?
Like pointillism? I'm wondering if they're asking about.
I think that's what they meant. Like using pen with dots. Yeah, like dot.
I have. That's called pointillism. Yeah, I used to do that a lot when I was younger. So I'm still just laying in some shadow shapes. And we're going to be going back into this a few areas.
So Nick has relayed a few questions from the other sources.
Okay.
Got one from YouTube. I have watercolor paper and watercolors. Whenever I try to use them on the paper in a thin layer, even the paper bubbles up. Do you experience this, and any tips?
Just gotta. One thing you can do, get your paper wet ahead of time. This is a trick that I learned. And you can use stretchers, like canvas stretchers for painting on canvas, or you can just tape it to a board. But I recommend using canvas stretchers because soften these edges because it'll dry from both sides. It'll be open to the air on both sides. But what you can do is you can let me get this real quick. Sorry, Dustin.
I'm just all over the place today.
You soak the paper so it gets really swollen, completely soaked. Soak the paper like in a bathtub. And then you can take that, let the water drip off so it's just wet. And then staple it to the stretcher around the edges fairly tightly, but not enough or it's going to tear. And then let it dry, and it will dry like a drum. It'll tighten right up as it dries so that when you get it wet, it won't buckle. Or you can just get a watercolor block like I'm working on.
Got a good Facebook question here. First of all, very beautiful. Just tuning in. Do you use masking fluid for watercolor? If so, what would you recommend? If not, what is your thoughts on masking fluid?
I do use masking fluid sometimes, not very often. Only because I just don't have the time for it if I'm out. I don't do a whole lot of studio stuff anymore. If I'm doing studio work, I definitely use it, and I use Winsor Newton.
Ready for the next question?
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Throw it on me.
A Twitch question. How can you see shadows as blue? How do you know which hue to use?
Well, in this case, I'm just going generic. I'm purposely playing. I'm going blue because I want to go cool and warm. I'm playing complements against each other. It's just an artistic choice that I'm taking. So I'm going a little cooler than what's in my reference. A little bluer, I should say. But I'm pushing it. I'm the artist, okay? I'm gonna go down the Bob Ross road right now, but this is my universe. And so this is how I want to do it, and you can do that. So now I've got basically a nice setup here as far as my value structure. I'm still really light, but you can see I've got some fun stuff going on. I'm going to dry this again, make sure it's really dry.
And we're back to the races, buddy.
And we're back to the
hair drying.
Hold on, I got to get this. There we go. Now, once again, you'll notice that even though these are all in the light value range, my shadows are still a slightly darker value than my light areas, so that I'm getting a sense of light and shadow. Now what I want to do is I want to get this head to pop. So I'm going to paint dark behind it. I'm going to go pretty dark. Let's see, I want to go kind of cool. So I'll keep that over there. I'm going to use a lot of pigment. What's that?
Rip headphone user, somebody wrote on Facebook for the hair drying. By the way, Dark Sign from Twitch asks, do you have a preference for watercolor that comes in tubes or in pans?
I use pans when I'm out in the field. I use tubes when I'm at home. And the only reason I use pans is because they're just a little bit more convenient. Now I'm throwing some Paynes Gray in here. Can you switch over to the palette, Dustin?
Yes.
Sorry. I'm throwing some Paynes Gray in here. Now Paynes Gray is going to kill a little bit of the purity of the color. Paynes Gray is basically black and ultramarine blue. But I want it to have a nice cool little hint of green in there. Like there's foliage back there in the shadows. But I'm staying pretty thick with the pigment. Now it looks black on there, but you can see when I get it thin on the palette, you can see there's a little bit of green tint to it. I'm switching back over to the painting now, Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
Now here, I want to work really fast. And so what I'm trying to do is make sure, and I want to load my brush. I'm going to tilt the paper. I want to work really fast because I don't want any dried edges. I'm going to paint right up to the edge. There we go.
Josh Berry from Facebook asks, is there big advantages to get this kind of paint versus others?
Watercolor, it's just a different medium. Watercolor for me, I love the effects I can get with it. I like working transparent. It's water based. That's another plus. So there's not a lot of extra toxic chemicals. I mean, you're still working with cadmiums and that sort of thing, but so I'm sorry, I'm I gotta stop talking for a second. I gotta soften this edge over here. I'm having trouble talking and painting at the same time, but I'm having to work against the clock, which is important here in watercolor. I'm having a hard time talking at the same time, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Ah, what the heck? Martin Berger from Facebook asks, can you reuse the paint of the tubes when they are dry?
Yes. Another plus for watercolor. And here you'll see I'm just fading it out. Fading it out. Let it go. There we go. And I'm going to let everything fade down towards the bottom.
Maros Magpili from Facebook asks, do you ever use pure black in watercolor paintings?
I don't. Some people do. It's a choice. But I don't. Black for me tends to kill the color, so I don't use it.
And Benjamin Hebert from Facebook asks, what's the current canvas size on that?
Oh, I think this is 9x12. Nine by 12 inches. So you can see what that's done. There we go. It pops them forward. And what do I got to do? Got to hit it with a hairdryer. You got to hit it with a hairdryer.
Off to the races again, folks.
Now, one thing, when you get a big area that wet, sort of like this, you want to make sure that it dries evenly. That way, otherwise, you're going to get pools, and it'll dry weird. But you can also work that towards your advantage. I'm going to kind of I'm going to fold my hairdryer back a little further and try to get it to dry fairly evenly.
Get that nice zoom in of all that dust on the hair dryer there.
Yeah, that's my old hair dryer. There you go. Look at that.
Oh, that is just fantastic. How many animals have you drawn and painted?
7.
7?
7.
I thought it was 42.
No, it's 42. That's right.
Yeah.
42. No, I don't know. All of them. So once again, I'm keeping this loose. There we go.
Do you ever outline the painting after with black markers? Another question from Facebook.
Yeah, you can, and we might do a little bit of that. But now I've got my basic. I've got kind of my mid-tone, almost mid-tones in there. Now I want to really start working darker. And you can see after just an hour, we got some pretty good stuff going. So now I'm going to use some of this dark pigment that I've created over here, but I'm going to add some warmth to it. And get into that nose.
Make it nice and warm.
Warm. Yeah, warm.
Yeah, warm, warm like the sun.
All right. Got my little brush. Let's see here.
Got a YouTube question.
Yeah, sure.
I thought your interview with Bobby Chu was very interesting. Will you be doing more videos with other artists?
Yes. How's that?
Fair enough.
Yes, and we'll be doing some on our channel. And am I in the way?
You're
My head-
leaning in so
my
close
head
it's
like
focusing
this?
on your...
Is my head like that?
It's
How's that?
focused-
How's
Oh,
that working?
perfect.
Is that working
Perfect.
for
It's
you?
focused right on your
You can
hair.
see my scalp right there.
Yeah, that looks great. From Facebook, do you ever add salts to your watercolors?
Yeah, I'll do that sometimes to create a textured background. For those of you that don't know what that is, if you add salt to a wet area, the grains of salt will soak up the wet in the immediate area, and it'll create a texture.
Ah,
It's kind of cool.
that sounds really cool.
So I'm going to let this get a little bit dark in here. What are you laughing at?
Just something from Nick. They wrote from Twitch. I thought your interview with Bobby Chu was very interesting. Will you be doing more videos with other artists? Very funny, Nick.
That Bobby Chu, man. For those of you that don't know Bobby Chu, check him out. He's an amazing artist. He's also got a great online school. We try to promote each other. And he's just a really cool dude. Bobby Chu. And also, I haven't actually really mentioned our site. If you're interested in online training, check out my website, creatureartteacher.com. And I've got lots of courses, video courses in there, character design, animation, animal drawing, all kinds of fun stuff. So you'll see now that I'm and once again, it's creatureartteacher.com. And what I'm doing here is just slowly building up the pigment, right? Slowly building it up. And the areas that I work in will get smaller and smaller.
All right, we got another Facebook question from Paul Bonner.
Yeah.
I notice you are left-handed. Can you or have you ever tried to draw or paint with your right hand?
Yes. And it looks like crap. For lack of a better way of putting it.
Another Facebook question from Shannon Arscott. What are the benefits of multimedia paintings?
Well, multimedia. First of all, it's a unique look. You'll come up with something very unique. But you can come up with different textures. You can come up with different. I mean, there's all kinds of benefits from it. It's just fun to explore. I'm going to go into a little bit of dark here. I need to really define now the mouth.
Oh.
So real quick, I'm sorry, Dustin.
Yeah, no worries.
You'll notice now I'm starting to pick little areas to start to define. And so that's what I'm going to do now. Notice in the mouth there's nothing really defined here, and I want to show that lip overlaps the bottom chin.
What art do you prefer, digital or traditional painting?
I love them both. I really do, and that's a cop-out answer, but I really do love them both.
And I also got a question here from Twitch. Do you have a favorite animal?
I don't. I tend to gravitate towards big cats and bears and big wildlife.
Lots of bears.
Bears. But obviously I love all wildlife. There, so now you can see I got a little bit of definition in that muzzle. So now I want to jump up to the eye. I want to work on that eye and get that in there, get that going nicely. See, I like the cool. I like having those cool colors. Just for the painting itself, it feels nice. It's nice and simple. That's one thing I want to do on this is keep it nice and simple.
It kind of feels like a nighttime or maybe like winter.
Yeah,
winter
exactly.
kind
I
of
want
vibe.
the colors to be soft. I want it to have maybe like a little Asian feeling, just in the way that it's painted. I'm trying to be very, very sensitive right now to the value structure. I'm keeping a very tight range with just hitting little areas that push the values. Can you see that? Am I in the way?
I can see it just fine.
So here I gotta be really careful. So I'm just gonna stop talking for a second.
Easy does it. It's so tense.
I sometimes stop breathing.
I've done that. Do you think you'll be able to do a question real quick? Or
Yeah, sure.
All right. Got a question from Melissa Scott from Facebook. Will you be at CTN in November?
Yes, I will.
Like we're all gonna be attending that, right? The whole crew.
Yep. Our whole business is going to be there.
It's gonna be awesome. Martin Berger from Facebook asks, will you do more traditional painting and drawing live streams? That would be awesome.
Well, if you're asking me to, then yes, I guess we will. There, so I'm just trying to be a little sensitive to the light and shadow in there. Now I want to go in and define some of the markings a little bit more. Like in the forehead.
Sarah Catheriner from Facebook asks, do animation studios like Disney typically take traditional studio artists as employees? Ones that haven't necessarily attended a school like Cal Arts?
Well, it's not necessarily the school you go to as far as it's what you can do at the studio. Now you got to keep in mind that everybody is working in a digital medium nowadays, so you have to be able to work digitally. Otherwise you can't. Yeah, they won't take you. That's just the way it is now.
And Erica Bay from Facebook as well.
Erica!
Are you still thinking of doing any live workshops in the future?
Yes, we are. And I hope you show up, Erica.
And got a YouTube question relayed from Nick. Did you use a water-soluble pencil to draw the sketch before painting?
No, I just used a graphite pencil. Just a regular old number 2.
Same old, same old. Ava Buffington from Facebook asks, have you ever painted a peacock, digitally or traditionally?
Yes. I have. I just can't pull it up for you right now. But I have, trust me. I swear.
I swear.
There we go, trying to get these nice subtle markings in the head. Right in the head. Look at that, I haven't even used my cadmiums. I squirted them out and I haven't even used them. I'm using them now. I get some nice warmth in there. Paint that right over the top. Right here.
Will this video be on YouTube channel after live stream?
Yes. It's just gonna it'll take a little while to process, but it'll be up. Just give it a little while. So I'm just softening up this area in here.
Venkat asks, have you drawn humans and anatomy?
Yes, matter of fact, I have a how to draw human anatomy course on my website. If you go to creatureartteacher.com, I've got that on my website.
David Wood from YouTube asks, Aaron, do you mix gouache with watercolor?
Yes, sometimes I do. Gouache is watercolor. Gouache is an opaque watercolor.
Opaque. What do you mean by opaque again?
Opaque is you can't see through it.
Oh.
It covers it.
Gina Rossner from Facebook asks, is there any chance that you come to Germany or Berlin someday?
Yeah, I think we will someday. We've talked about, we've definitely talked about it. So I'm trying to create a little bit more. Matter of fact, I don't want to use this brush. I want to use a bigger brush.
Mary Khalil from Facebook asks, will you do digital painting live soon?
Yeah, I do. I usually do that on here. It's just that today we wanted to do something a little more traditional because we haven't been at it for a while. Am I missing something?
No, you moved it down. So
sorry. No, I can move it back.
Okay.
Sorry.
You know, I'm just going to zoom it out just a little bit. Just.
No, I like it. I like where it's at. I like where you got it. I'll be more careful. I promise.
You get so carried away.
Kind of feel like the
What? Can't hear you.
What? Right, today I feel like the ocean with Hey Hey from Moana just. It's like you do one thing, I have to adjust it. You do another thing, I have to adjust it.
Oh.
But it's fun.
So you can show my palette too.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I'm doing now is I'm mixing up some darker color because I'm going to go underneath right now.
Mostafa on Facebook asks, what do you think is more beneficial, reference photos or real life, and why?
Real life is always going to be more beneficial because real life doesn't lie. Photos can lie.
And I might butcher his name, I apologize, but Salsia from Facebook asks, what brand of watercolor and paper is this, and what are your experiences with these compared to cheaper brands?
Well, cheaper brands will always be, if you're gonna, especially with cheap watercolor paper, you'll get what you pay for. It'll fall apart. It'll get goopy. You've got to get good heavy duty paper. This is Winsor Newton paint that I'm using, and Winsor Newton for me just tends to be the best. Other people, there's Grumbacher, there's there's a lot of other brands out there, but Winsor Newton for me is just the best. And I'm using professional grade pigments as well. So, which means I'm paying more for each tube because I'm getting more pigment in each tube.
And got another question here from Twitch.
Yeah.
Uh, how much pushback was there in the industry when digital began to grow? Were you excited about the new technology, or was learning the new tool daunting?
I never learned it, to be honest with you, but I was fascinated by it. I loved it, um, and I think everybody was excited about it. At least within my circle of friends, I know there's a few people out there that got paranoid about it. We never expected, not in a million years, we never expected 2D animation to go away in the way that it did. We just thought we would always all coexist at the same time. And so when 2D went away, yeah, we were really shocked. Um, but you know, that's life. Life has changed, and then things changed, and we had to figure out how to move on. And so we did.
Another question from YouTube. Have you tried your hand at sculpture?
I've sculpted. The last time I sculpted was in college, and I'm not a bad sculptor. Can you see that? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a bad sculptor. I just you know, it's there's just too many things to do in the day. And sculpting, you know, sculpting for me takes a real commitment that I just don't have the time to do.
Doris from Facebook asks, some animators like Richard Williams prefer to animate everything on ones. What do you think about that approach, and what is your philosophy when animating on ones versus twos?
I'm too lazy to do everything on ones. And I don't think you have to do everything on ones. A lot of the animation I've done over the last couple of days has all been on, or last couple of weeks, I should say, sorry, has all been on twos. Um, and I think I think animating on twos is perfectly fine. I mean, you look at Miyazaki, and you get beautiful, beautiful films, beautiful scenery, beautiful stories, and he's animating on fours and sixes and all that. Now, I love ones, and I do animate on ones when the action calls for it. Uh, but like I said, I'm too darn lazy. I don't like doing all those drawings. If I can get away with twos, I'm going to get away with twos.
And Pastor Juarez from Facebook asks, did you insert any of the famous subliminal messages in the Disney movies?
No, I mean we would do caricatures of each other, but all the stuff that people think we did, no one really did. Like the sex up in the dust in Lion King, that said special effects. It didn't say sex. And that was from the special effects department, the people that painted the dust.
Got a question from Twitch. Hi, Aaron.
Hi.
How do you how do you avoid putting in too much watercolor? Like, how do you avoid a cakey feeling?
I tend to go thin just naturally anyway, so just use less pigment.
Just water it down before you put
Yeah,
it on.
just water it down. I'm jumping right to a lot of detail right now. I'm kind of jumping my. I was talking about, you know, being careful of my values, and I'm going a little dark in my values right now on some of these details, and I'm gonna pull back a little bit. I think I'm gonna hit everything again with that blue. It's starting to. There we go. Starting to get some nice texture going.
And Nick suggests that for the latecomers, if you could show the reference picture again, explain where it came from.
Oh, sure. Let me do this first. Sorry, I can't breathe right now. Just want to get this in really quickly.
So
Well, you'll see. I'm sorry. You'll see that what I'm doing is I'm building up pigment, and I'll work dark or cool over warm and warm over cool, and build them up that way as well. My cup is getting a little dirty.
So the person that asked about the animation of the ones and twos,
Yeah.
says, "Oh, thank you so much." So twos would be in betweens and keys together.
No, twos just means that a drawing is held for 2 frames. It has nothing to do with keys or anything like that. That's something. That's a different. That's apples and oranges. Twos just means you have a drawing that's held for 2 frames, and ones means it's a drawing held for 1 frame. But you can have keys and in betweens on twos, and you have keys and in betweens on ones. Those are 2 different ideas. There we go.
And Juan Perez from Facebook asks, "Are you attending any Comic Cons or CTNs this year?"
I'm going to CTN. We find that Comic Con doesn't. Comic Con is such a huge event, and it really doesn't. It's not. We don't fit in there really well.
It's more for like the comic book
Yeah.
guys and everything. And
So what I'm doing here is I'm just pulling up. I'm going with some water and just pulling up some pigment in that ear area just to soften it up. Softening up that area there too. There we go. There we go. I'm going to go in and hit some really fine. Oh, I got to show. I'm sorry.
Yep. I was just about to remind you, like, hey.
So here's the reference. This is a photograph of a mountain lion that I photographed.
The photograph of a lion I photographed.
I'm from the Department of Redundancy Department. But this is in Montana over the summer. And so there's that. And so I'm using that as reference. It's one of my own photos. I'm a big believer in using my own photos for reference. And then this is kind of, my loose painting that I'm doing as a result of it. Or my loose little rendition. And one of the things I think I'm going to do. Oh no, I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to go in even darker now. We're going to hit some real darks. Just a couple little darks here. And I'm going to go.
So you went to Montana, you took a photo of that in Montana?
I went to Montana and took a photo of that in Montana. Yes. It was in Montana.
It was in Montana?
Yeah. So here I'm going in, I'm hitting some details. Pretty much black. Hitting the nostril, around the eye. Once again, I gotta hold my breath.
I remember painting the little figurines, and I would get such tight little details that I would actually push my palms together. In one hand I would hold the figurine, the other hand I would be holding the brush.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would actually hold my breath to to get those teeny tiny little details.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We should remember, like, you and I had that you had that art studio that I painted in with you all the time back in California.
Yep. That was fun, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I had the magnifying glass and everything.
Yeah. That was a good studio we had.
I'm gonna paint this leg blue.
All right, so I'm going in now. Just adding a little more dark. On the markings here, on the muzzle markings. There we go. So I'm going to keep all of this really, I'm not going to get super detailed with it. Kind of liking the softness that I'm getting. Now there is a couple things I'm going to do. I'm going to do some cheats. I remember I was saying that this is transparent watercolor. Well, I'm going to do a couple little cheats in here that are going to be opaque.
Ready for another question?
Yeah, baby.
Brittany Phillips from Facebook asks, can you tell us what you worked on in Lion King?
I designed and animated young Nala, and then I also helped out with Simba, both adult and a cub. Matter of fact, that photo right there, switch to that photo. That photo up there is me working on the Lion King, and that's me working on Simba, adult Simba. Ruben Aquino was the supervisor, and he had given me a few shots, and so that was me working on them.
And also Ryan Churchill from Facebook asks, have you followed Taco House and their work? Love their style of animation. Keep up the good work, by the way.
No, I don't know who that is. So I'll have to look them up.
And looks like Nick has relayed another YouTube question from JPlane88Q. Hey Aaron.
Hi.
What makes a good animation portfolio?
Good animation. No, but yeah, I mean, it's a good animation portfolio does not consist of your walk cycles from college. It doesn't consist of, any of that kind of stuff. It's, studios want to see studio work. So they want to see, when I was looking at animation portfolios, I wanted to see acting scenes. I wanted to see changes of emotion, subtle animation, broad animation. A lot of different approaches, if you've got them.
And by the way, Nick says that you do know them because you're on the panel with them at CTN last year.
Oh, those guys! I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. Yes, I just forgot the names.
It was almost a year ago, so.
Yeah, well, Nick knows I'm an idiot, so.
We're all idiots at some point.
Some more than others.
What lake is Lake Susan Lodge on?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'd had a few drinks that night.
Still, though. It was still pretty funny. Francisca Reading from Facebook asks, obviously, yourself aside, whose work would you recommend when studying how to portray animals? I have been following your how to draw bears and big cats lessons and plan on acquiring more from the series ASAP.
Ah, good. There's a lot of great artists out there. Bob Kuhn, who's passed away, was an amazing animal artist. I would really highly recommend looking at his work. He's got a looser style, but it's just absolutely beautiful. He was one of my favorite sporting artists. Carl Rungius, another artist that painted in the turn of the century, so he's not alive now, was just an amazing big game painter. Wilhelm Kunert. I've got all their books up. There's Carl Rungius right there. Can you grab that book, Dustin? Okay, it's going to be about the 4th or 5th book to the right, down, right there. Carl Rungus. That's the one.
This one?
Yep.
Okay, I'll just put it away.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I let this dry. Doggone it.
I'll switch to
Hold on.
webcam.
My over-the-shoulder cam. Yeah, so this is Carl Rungus. This is one of my favorites. Switch to the down shot. There's my name so that no one steals my book. But his paintings were really thick and juicy and just absolutely stunning. He painted anatomy with such a knowledge. It was just incredible. He wasn't just a great animal painter; he was a great painter. So, Carl Rungus, Painter of the Western Wilderness. Get that book. Every animal artist should have it. Guy Koliak, who's a contemporary now. Guy Koliak, he's in his 80s now, still alive, and paints like a son of a gun. And he can really draw. He was one of my biggest influences on big cats. You know, Robert Bateman, another one that you probably know.
Also, Terrell Whitlatch.
Terrell Whitlatch is a wonderful animal artist. She's a great creature designer.
Was she the one that made the Star Wars animal book?
Yep. So I'm just hitting tiny little details right now. I'm going in and just trying to get this to pop just a little bit with tiny, tiny little details.
Josh Berry from Facebook asks, did you ever meet Thomas Kincaid before we lost him?
Thomas Kincaid, Painter of Light. No, I never did.
And Martin Berger from Facebook asks, when do you know that your painting is finished?
That's a tough question. I get that a lot. It's really it's when you feel it in your art, you know. But you'll also know. I mean, everyone's been guilty of, you know, painting that just going a little too far. So what I'm doing now is I'm just adding little tiny details, little fur details that will just give it enough interest to get this to sing a little bit.
Oh, Nick wrote, speaking of animal art, he should know the In Danger book.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm having trouble. I can't breathe right now because I'm trying to paint.
Starting to hit the don't breathe moment in your painting.
Yeah, I'm being very specific in some of the details I'm putting in now. So when I get to this stage, I'm going in, just hitting little details here and there. I'm going to hit some of these shadows a little bit more with even more blue.
Nick says should show the In Danger book. Do you know where that is?
In Danger. I can't remember where I put it.
It's lost in the black hole of the bookshelf.
In Danger. It's up there somewhere. Sorry, Nick.
You want me to look for it, or?
I gotta stick to this real quick. Just hitting some nice shadows here.
Your art is in his art's in is out now, right?
What?
The In Danger book, or is it your art that's in it? The In Danger?
Yeah, it's I'm trying to remember where I put it. My art's in it. I'm just trying to remember where I put it. Oh, I know where it is. It's not on my shelf. I thought I put it away on my shelf. It's out in the living room.
Oh. I'll get it.
Yeah, definitely. Because
Aha, found it.
good.
Yeah, it was right on the nightstand.
Yeah, sorry. And I was like, I should be promoting this, but I was so into my trying to get these, these details in.
You were just having a detailed brain fart.
I was. Just trying to soften some of these edges up. So this is a brand new book that's just come out called In Danger. That was um, printed by my friends at Expedition Art, who I'm a part of that organization.
Can you show the back end again, but just a little lower? There you go.
There we go. And it's 100 species. We had a bunch of different artists come together and paint 100 different species that are in danger of going extinct. And every artist has their own interpretation. Here's one I did of the snail kite, Everglades kite. But everybody has their own interpretation of the book. And if you go to expeditionart.org, go to expeditionart.org, there it is, you can order this book. And the proceeds go to saving wildlife. Our motto for the organization is trying to save wildlife one drawing at a time. And it's really something that we feel passionate about. We really want to do this. And so if you want to help us help wildlife, then order this book. And you'll do just that. It's a great book. There's a lot of stuff in here.
It comes with an envelope.
Yep, it comes with my envelope. Here's a painting I did of the African elephant. So all kinds of cool stuff. So here it is, In Danger. Order it. Go to expeditionart.org. I'm going to jump in here and continue. Just want to hit. Nice. Holy smokes, that went right down my neck.
I try to hold it.
I try to block it.
So I love working ultramarine blue over some of these warm colors. The pigment kind of bunches up in its own unique way, and it creates some nice textures.
Darnell Robinson from Facebook asked, I asked this a while back, but can we see Aaron draw one of the Disney princesses? I love to see his take on them.
No.
No?
I'm terrible at drawing the princesses. The only one I drew was Jasmine. No, I drew Pocahontas as well, and I was terrible. But right now I'm not going to draw them because I'm focused on this. But I'll draw them in a future episode.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I wasn't saying now, but you know.
But I promise I will. So I'm just going to go in and just hit some of these details. So that's what I'm doing now, is I'm just hitting little details. How are we doing on time? We're about an hour and a half into it.
Yeah, we're currently
at
this is.
I should be done with this by now. So I'm just gonna start to finish this up. We'll hit some little details here.
All those teeny tiny little details. How do you blend the colors?
I use water. I use the water and I blend by keeping things wet and pulling the water and the pigment together. It's a little tight right now to show you. There we go. There. It's very simple.
Sorry to ask you to repeat, but what were the names of those wildlife artists you mentioned again?
Carl Rungius, Wilhelm Kunert, Guy Koliak, Robert Bateman, and Bob Kuhn.
And that question was from Paul Bonner.
So I'm going to keep this really simple.
I got a question from Amanda Socks on Facebook. Do you have a course on watercolors out at the moment?
Nope, but we're working on it. We are going to be doing one.
You think that's going to be after the animation courses?
Yeah, right now I'm working on an animation course. So once the animation course is done, then I'll be moving on to a watercolor course. And I'll be working on Snow Bear, our animated short. Trying to get that done. We got a lot of stuff coming up in 2018 and 19.
Vedanta's watching and says, waiting in an endless line at Gloria School.
Oh,
The line as far as the
school
eye
has
can
just
see.
started here.
Yeah.
Starts early in Florida.
It is fun. What is the first animal you drew as a child? Asks Lee Holland from Facebook.
Ducks and snakes. I used to draw snakes under the ground.
I thought you were going to say ducks and goose.
And ducks and geese. I'm just going to throw some more blue in here, see what happens.
Emmett Broderick from Facebook asks, have you heard of Raymond Ching?
Raymond, yes, Raymond Ching is fantastic. He's a Kiwi artist from New Zealand. And he's absolutely wonderful.
And Mary Khalil asks from Facebook, what is your favorite medium to use with animation?
That's a trick question. I'm not sure. Pencil? I'm not sure what you're asking. What kind of medium to use?
Maybe asking like digital or traditional, most likely.
Oh, maybe so.
So, like, which one would you prefer?
Those, as far as those go, I like them both. So I'm just going to keep this nice hard shadow, and then I'm going to get really loose and paint another shadow over here in blue.
Nick has a YouTube question.
Yeah.
Aaron, do you have the book An Artist's Safari by Ralph Thompson? Fantastic watercolor portraits of African animals.
I don't know that I do. I'll have to look. I might have it.
He also has a Twitch question, if you're ready for that one as well.
Yeah.
When you draw a subject, how do you treat it? Do you see them as a part of yourself for the acting and animation, or do you see them as just creatures?
No, part of myself for sure. Always. Otherwise, you can't get the acting to feel right. I always put myself into them. Boy, my water is really dirty. I'm leaving stains on the paper, but that's okay. I'm going to soften up some of these areas.
Irina from Facebook asks, why do you add blue color repeatedly? Why not dark brown or
because the blue will keep it cool. I'm controlling temperature and color purity, and I want to be able to see. If I just go brown, it's killing the color. But by adding blue and layering the blues and cools and warms, it's keeping the color and the pigment more interesting. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just going through and hitting some of the areas that feel a little harsh for me, and I'm just hitting them with a wet brush and softening them up. Like so. There we go. Very simple. This is a very simple painting that I've spent way too long on, but it's been fun. I'm just going to hit one or two more things here.
Another question from Facebook, if you're ready.
Yeah.
Samuel Saffler asks, I know you intended to be a National Geographic illustrator at first place, but have you always loved animation?
I've always been interested in animation, but it wasn't ever anything I ever thought I was going to do. Before I got into it, I just never thought I would ever have anything to do with it. I mean, I went and saw animated movies when I was a kid, and I thought they were cool. But I was always fascinated by, doing drawings and seeing them move. A group of drawings move, but beyond that, I just never thought it was anything I was ever going to do.
For the latecomers, what paper are you currently painting on?
I'm currently painting on Arches watercolor, cold press watercolor paper. I'm going to do one more thing here. I know I keep saying that.
There we go. Autumn from Facebook asks, what do you feel like is the hardest part of watercolor?
You just want to make sure you keep in control of your values and your color. Color can be really tough in watercolor because it's an additive process. A lot of times your color can get muddy very quickly.
A YouTube question relay from Nick. Are those areas you're hitting with the water to soften already dry?
Yes.
Or still wet?
They're already dry. That's why I have to hit them with water. Here I'm just going in and adding a little bit of detail.
Rasmus asked from Facebook, have you ever animated something that made you emotional? If yes, do you use the emotions to draw, or do you take a break to cool down?
Everything I've ever animated, especially in Disney films, has made me emotional because I try to get into the character as much as I can. I'll get emotional with the Beast, with Belle, Pocahontas, with Simba. Any of those characters, they've all made me emotional in some way. Because you have to dig deep and make those scenes real. And a lot of times the best way to do that is you have to find the experiences, dig deep and find the experiences that you had in your own life that make it real to you. And sometimes those experiences are painful and you got to relive them a little bit.
Tony Jr. from Facebook asked, have you ever drawn apples? And if yes, how do you like them apples? Very clever. And Manny asks, do you prefer cold press over hot press, or you just switch back and forth?
I like cold press over hot press for painting, but for drawing, for when I'm doing ink and watercolor, then I definitely like hot press.
And what's the difference between hot and cold?
Hot press is smooth, cold press is rough.
Gotcha. And
I'm
guessing cold press helps absorb more watercolor better, or?
Yes. I'm going to do a cheat real quick. Look behind you. There's another bag of paint. You see that behind you? Right there. Yep. Hand me that bag.
Uh-huh.
I've got a little bag here. This little bag is my gouache. I'm going to go in with a couple of very light opaques with white. I'm going to paint the whiskers in.
Yeah, I had to switch to the webcam for a second there because your whole head was covered.
My
in
whole
camera.
head. And the other thing I want to do is I'm going to use a very tiny brush to paint those whiskers. So I'm going to go into my field kit. There we go. Go into my field kit. I'm going to just grab some white gouache.
Dabble do it.
Little dabble do it.
And Nick found a question on Facebook. Are you ready for a question?
1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. For learning to draw animals realistically, do you believe beginners should trace them, trace then reference, or never trace?
Whatever works for you. You know, I personally don't trace, but it's whatever works for you. So, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, you should never trace. Well, no, that's not true.
And for watercolor, do you use a color pencil for little details?
No. I used to. Excuse me. But I don't now.
And Aaron Pencava, who asked the ones and twos animation question earlier,
Yeah.
asks, can you give us some dad advice?
Put your grocery carts away every day. You go grocery shopping.
Nice.
Don't go after the dollar. Go after the job that's going to make you happy. Eventually, the dollars will be there. That was the best piece of advice my stepfather ever gave me. And I heeded it. I listened to him. And lo and behold, I never needed money. It was always, as long as I was doing what I loved, even if I was low on money, I still seemed to have enough money. Because I was happy. Do what's going to make you happy.
And Nick found a question on Twitch. Is there a difference between watercolor and acrylic?
Yes, acrylic is a plastic-based paint. When it dries, it's basically plastic. Acrylic didn't come about until the late 50s, early 60s. Watercolor is a straight-up pigment with a binder, and you use water to lay it down. So I'm going in here and just hitting a couple of detail-y areas. Probably more than I should. I was just going to do the whiskers, but now I'm probably going to get carried away.
Lewis from Facebook asks, how you clean your brushes when changing color? Just water them down?
I just water them down. Yep.
Do you do any extra detail cleaning when you're done with the painting?
I make sure I'll rinse them. I'll rinse the water that I was using, and then hit them again. A lot of times. Oh, am I in the way again?
No. Nick is recommending that Try to zoom in for the details.
Don't zoom in too tight. It's going to look like crap.
Just try not to move around the drawing too much. Right about there.
So there's our kitty. Our kitty cat.
Kitty. Let me a Monsters Inc.
Getting a few little details in here. How's it look on that end?
Looks good.
Looks good on the screen.
Yeah.
So that's our cat. There's our cougar.
Meow.
2 hours. This is a 2-hour demo. Shouldn't have taken 2 hours. This should have been a very quick demo, but hey, it was still fun.
I think right meow is a good time to close it up.
Right meow?
Right meow. Are you saying meow?
Am
I saying meow?
Are you saying meow?
Let me see your license registration right meow.
Alright, it's just to hit a couple of extra little details here.
Kristen from Facebook asks, how do you come up with story ideas?
You know what? A lot of times they just hit you. That's what they are for me. But I've been doing it for a long time, and it's really about what inspires you and what, I don't know. It's a hard one because sometimes they'll come to me in when I'm sleeping. Sometimes I develop them. I have to think about them for a while and work them that way. What's the matter? Oh,
It's getting low.
we got a little poochie. Our little poochie's getting a little annoyed.
Yeah. Got another question here for you.
Yeah.
Rachel from Facebook says, "Hi Aaron, inspirational
Hi.
stuff. What's the best white medium to use for watercolor? I can never get my white to pop."
I'm using gouache right now. But you can use, any kind of gel pens and all kinds of stuff. But gouache would probably be your best bet. And the best thing to do is if you want your whites to really pop, is just to don't paint that area. Keep it just paper. So, I need a pencil. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and sign it right down here on the bottom.
And PHLFR from Facebook asks, would you try to say in French, "Vive la peinture"?
I don't know how to say that.
Je ne comprends pas, monsieur.
So there's our painting. I'm going to pull this up.
Yeah, let me go ahead and zoom it out then.
Let me turn it this way. Our little cougar painting. Oh, I got to go this way. Here it is. So you'll see why I like doing as long as I don't tear any edges. We got a nice clean edge on here.
Oh, didn't mean to push that.
There we go. There's a nice clean edge right there.
I zoomed it out just enough to where
That's a little far.
I figured you could.
Oh, I can pick it up?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll pick it up.
Unless if it's too still wet.
So you can see I purposely did some detail in the head and then just let everything else kind of fade out. And that's my watercolor demo. Remember, with watercolor, you really want to start light and work towards your darks. Here I wanted the eye to go here, so I kept all the contrast, all the detail up in this area and let everything else fade out. But you can see, I mean, you can see my hand. It's a small painting, but it was fun to do. The other thing too, remember, you can use gouache to pick up little light areas, as you can see, with the whiskers and what I've done there. But that's it. So the key is to keep control. Play warms and cools against each other. Be aware of your temperature, and just have fun with it. Most of all, like I said, this was kind of a very tight approach that I did, but you can go at it really loose as well, as long as you keep control of that pigment. All right, so there we go. So that was fun. 2 hours, almost 2 hours, right on the button. So I'm going to be back again on Thursday. We'll probably do some animation because I'm working on a new shot. It's a real fun one. I think you guys will enjoy it.
Going back to digital again?
I'm going to be going back to digital, doing a digital hand-drawn animation, but working on my Cintiq. And I'm doing a little animated piece with a vulture. It's going to be a lot of fun.
With an Australian vulture.
I don't think he's Australian.
He sounds Australian to me. I don't know why.
But so that's going to be fun. And then I am going to. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm talking about. The one thing I'm just talking. The one thing I didn't talk about, I forgot to refer to, was this skull. Can you go back to the over the shoulder shot?
Yes, Captain.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about was just structure. And one of the things you can see on this cat, right along here, you can see that shadow line where it goes into shadow. Well, that's dictated by this bone right here, right there. That cheekbone dictates that shadow. You have a plane that comes out this way, and then it curves under, and it goes into shadow, and that's what we have right here. And so that's that structure. You can see the structure, with the skull. So I wanted to talk about that, but I forgot. So that's just a fun little bit of anatomy reference. But remember, go to my website, creatureartteacher.com. I've got all kinds of lessons over there. Animal drawing, storyboarding, story writing, character design, animation, and I'm working on a new course, acting for animation. So that'll be up in the next month or two. But I had a really good time painting with you guys today. And like I always say, please go out and put some beauty back in the world and do something nice for somebody. Put your grocery cart away when you go shopping. I'm going to say that every time now.
That's going to be your new thing.
But the biggest thing is just do something nice for somebody. And if we can all do that, then you know what? I think the world will be a better place. So I make sure to say it all the time, and I try to do it. But I will talk to you guys on Thursday. I will be right here animating, doing the same thing. And until then, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.